What's going on? I'm the Ink Taco, and today we're going to be discussing Overlord Season 3, recapping the anime, and then going over the light novel. I also did Season 1 and 2, and I'll leave links in the episode description below. In Nazarick, Ainz rewards Sebas, Solution, and Entoma for their work in the capital. Ainz decides to give the female floor guardians the day off, so Albedo, Shaltir, and Aura are out relaxing on the 6th floor, and Albedo summons a level 100 bicorn to show the two. Unfortunately, she's unable to ride it. Shaltir uses her encyclopedia that Ainz gave her that belonged to Perurincino to find out why she can't ride it. They find out that only an impure maiden can ride a bicorn. Aura and Shaltir are confused, seeing as Albedo is a succubus. Also on the 6th floor, Hamsky and the Death Knight are doing some training under Zaryushu and Zebusu. I guess they brought them back, seeing if the two can learn martial arts skills or not. Aura gets a secret letter from Ainz inviting the male guardians to the spa. He goes to tell Ainz that he's gonna go. Before heading to the bath, Albedo tries to sex Ainz, and he is not about it. We end with all the males and Ainz in the bath now. Now to what I consider the real part of the arc. Ainz tells Demiurge to tell the other Guardians about his plan moving forward, which is that they are getting closer to Ainz's plans for world domination, which Ainz has no idea about, but he just rolls with it. Demiurge suggests that Nazarick comes out as an independent nation. Now in Carne Village, we see that they're doing well thanks to the goblins that Enri has summoned. Nefira has been working on the potions with some of the items that Ainz has given them to do experiments with. They go into the forest to pick herbs, and they end up saving a hobgoblin named Agu from a Barghest. Agu explains that he was attacked by the minions of the Giant of the East, who himself has allied himself with the Demon Snake of the West. He also says some of the others from his group are trying to escape and asks them if they can help. They also talk about going to Irantel to sell stuff and making a request to the guild about the monsters in the forest. Beta shows up, and Nefiria gives her a purple potion that he's made. That night, Enri is awakened by one of the goblins, and they tell her that while looking for Agu's group, they ran into 5 orcs that want to join them. The next morning, Enri makes her way to Irantel alone because Inferia has to stay and look after the wounded that they found. Enri is stopped at the gate and is questioned and almost arrested, but is saved by Momon/Ainz. After selling the herbs, she makes her way to the guild to put in a request, but the clerk is nonchalant about it at first because the request she had is most likely adamantite rank and she doesn't have the money for it. She sits down and takes a nap, and Enri is awakened by the same clerk anxiously asking for her more details about her request. After she leaves and heads back to the village, she gives the goblins some new weapons that she's bought with the money they made. Once at Carne Village, the chief asks her to become the new chief, and at first she doesn't think she's up to it, but after talking to Beta and Inferia, she accepts, and she becomes the new chief. Yuri comes by to tell Beta that Ainz wants to talk to her. Ainz reprimands Beta for her failure to report about the happenings in the forest. Before she's excused, Beta gives Ainz the potion that Inferia made. Ainz then asks Aura if she knows anything about the beasts of the forest, and she said she does not. Ainz wants to know what kind of monsters they are, and maybe to see if they can use them as a test for Beta. Ainz and Aura make their way to the Giant of the East den. Both the Giant of the East and the Snake of the West are there. Ainz kills the Giant, and the Snake pledges his loyalty to Ainz. Now, in Carne Village, Enri again is awoken by the warning bells and a goblin telling her that the village is being attacked. A zombified Giant of the East attacks the front, and the goblin Jugman kills him and takes his greatsword, and they successfully defend the village. Meanwhile that's happening, Enri and Inferia are attacked by a troll, and Beta saves them. The next day, they start doing repairs on the village. Inferia, Enri, and Nemu are invited to have dinner in Nazarick. We start with Fluter trying to control a Death Knight. A guard tells him that the Adamantite group Darkness wants to meet with him. Momon and Nabe are visiting Arwentar, the capital of the Baharuth Empire. In the Imperial Palace, Jerknev and company are discussing the events that happened in Riestes with Yaldameoth. He orders Fluter to investigate Yaldameoth, and the conversation ends with Fluter reporting on Ainz Ul Gon. In Riestes, the king, Zanak, and Rainier are discussing what they should do about rebuilding the kingdom, and First Prince Barbaro shows up. Back in the Empire, the worker group Foresight is discussing whether or not to take a new request that is paying out a lot of money. They agree to the request and make their way to Count Femel's mansion, meeting 3 other worker groups that are also participating. Leaving out, Maumon is introduced as their escort to the tomb. Once they make camp and the workers are way to the tomb, Ainz tells Nabe that Pandora's actor will take his place there and he will go to Nazarick. Before entering the tomb, each goes through its own separate burial room and finds sarcophaguses full of treasure. After all 4 groups meet up at the entrance, one group decides to tell the others that they will scout around the tomb and look for hidden entrances. As they go to look around, the Pleiades show up and confronts them. They are killed by the Nazarick Old Guarders. The other 3 groups have already gone inside and went their separate ways. The first group gets caught by Kinyo Kuhuko and the Neuralist Painkiller. The second group runs into Hamsky. Hamsky kills the man with the martial arts he's learned, and then he also just leaves the elf girls alone. Lastly, Foresight is teleported to the 6th floor and they meet Ainz. The leader tries to trick Ainz into letting him go by saying that they had permission to be there, but Ainz knows that's a lie. After seeing Ainz's overwhelming power, they tell one of the girls to run and she flees. Ainz defeats the other 3 and he tells Shaltir to go kill that girl that left. With that, all the intruders have been dealt with. Entema, with her new voice from the girl that Shaltir killed, tells Ainz that Aura and Mare are ready to depart. In the Imperial Castle, Jerkneves learns that all the workers have been wiped out. Then Aura and Mare show up riding a dragon. Mare uses his powers to open up the grounds and kill all the soldiers in the square, as well as one of the 4 Imperial Knights. Aura says that Ainz isn't happy that someone sent people into his home, and someone needs to apologize, and if they don't, he's going to destroy the entire empire. Jerkneve and company go to Nazarick to meet Ainz. Jerkneve gives the head of Count Femel as an apology, and Ainz turns it into a death knight in front of them. Jerkneve also says that they should form an alliance. After leaving, Jerkneve discusses with the group that after seeing Ainz's power that they're going to have all the other countries join forces to take him out. He also figures out that Fluter has betrayed the Empire and is working with Ainz. It cuts to a scene where it shows that Fluter has already met Ainz. Back in Nazarick, Ainz and the Guardians are discussing what Jerkneve is planning. Ainz also decides to go with the name the Sorcerer King when Nazarick becomes its own nation. Now in Riestes, a messenger tells the king and the nobles that Baharuth has declared their annual war and recognizes Nazarick as an independent nation and an ally, also stating that the land of Irantel and their surrounding area rightfully belongs to Nazarick. The kings and the nobles refuse to give up that land and they begin to prepare for war. In the discussion, the king appoints Raven as the leader of the army in this war. He also sends First Prince Barbaro to Carne village to learn about Ainz. Now, in the Khazit Plains, at the Imperial Fort, Ainz, alongside Mare, gather his army. Barbaro arrives at Carne village, and long story short, he starts an attack on Carne village and Enri is forced to use the second goblin horn that Ainz gave her. She summons an entire army comprised of 5,000 goblin troops. Ainz is watching this happen and surmises that the horn must have some special requirements to summon an army that large. The goblin army is able to repel Barbaro and he retreats. After fleeing, that night, Beta finds Barbaro and tells him that she's been sent there to kill him. Don't know if it's the same day or the next day, but the war begins and Ainz casts a super tier spell, instantly killing 70,000 soldiers. He tells Nimble, one of the Imperial Knights, that the spell isn't done yet and summons 5 Dark Young, and they begin to trample the rest of the royal army. Raven sees what's happening and calls for a full retreat. Back at the main camp, the king is informed and is urged to retreat. Gazif is met by Ainz riding one of the Dark Young, and Brain and Climb show up just as Gazif challenges Ainz to a duel. Unfortunately, Ainz kills Gazif. In the following days, the king and the nobles secede Irantel to Ainz, and in Irantel, Ainz takes his army and marches through the street, and the citizens aren't happy about the change of rule. Ainz implores Momon to be the go-between between him and the city, seeing as Ainz doesn't want to rule them by fear. With that said, Nazarick now steps into the New World stage and now has officially founded the Sorcerer Kingdom under Ainz Ulgon. So, light novel time. So the light novel for this season covers light novels 7, 8, and 9. And like season 2, there's not really a lot of differences. It just kind of goes into a lot more detail. Not too many. There's not really a lot of things. But first is, so Albedo, after they're done in Nazarick, after they're done taking care of the invaders, Albedo and Ainz are talking, and she asks to start a secret unit that will find the other supreme beings if they're in this new world. Ainz agrees, and he says, and she asks for Pandora's actor and a bunch of high-level monsters to be in the unit, and then she also asks for her sister, Rubedo, and Ainz is like, nah, being that she's like the most powerful being in all of Nazarick. He's like, I'm not gonna just let her have full control over, or have you have full control over her. And so, but they'd start that. That's not, they didn't put that in the anime. Next is when Enri goes to Irantel. So the reason why she gets stopped is because her horse looks too nice. They said it looks too nice for someone from a rundown outskirt village, and that she's by herself, and they're like a girl by herself. They think that she might be a mage or something like that, so they stop her. And as you would assume, Ainz saves her, but it also goes, in the light novel, goes into why he intervenes. So because since Inferia knows that Ainz is Momon and vice versa, he's like, if I don't help her, he's gonna, and if she tells him, he's gonna be pissed that I didn't help her. So he's like, I'm just gonna help her to not have to get on Inferia's bad side. So that's pretty much like, not really, like I said, not really differences, but more of like extra stuff. And then really the only thing else I have is Gazif. The fight with Gazif, nothing was really different, but it kind of goes into the detail of the spell he used. It was a 9th tier spell that only about 5% of magic casters can use, just because of how like the timing of casting. I guess it was like 2 different spells you have to cast and all that. So, but that's really it. I'm hoping season 4 comes out July 5th. That's probably about 2 weeks from now, and I don't think they will, but I would be hoping that they bring Gazif back. But I've already read light novel 10, like the summary of 10 and 11 and 12, so I'm hoping that, I was like, I just can't wait. So if you made it all the way through this video, I appreciate it. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll be doing more breakdowns of other animes, or really whatever you want me to do. Thank you. See you later.